Stop buying $15 cents. Mix these 2 cheap baking scraps for instant swarms. I took 2 ordinary white powders straight from the baking aisle of a local grocery store, dumped them into an old plastic container, and mixed them with a splash of murky lake water until they formed a sticky, dense dough. I didn't add any synthetic chemicals. I didn't use a proprietary laboratory-engineered gel. I just pressed that raw dough around a bare hook and dropped it into 12 feet of heavily pressured water. The underwater camera captured exactly what happened next. The moment that dough hit the lake bed, it didn't just sit there. It immediately began bleeding a thick, milky white smoke into the water column, while hundreds of microscopic, shimmering oil droplets separated from the mass and shot toward the surface. I set a timer. In exactly 3 minutes, the dead water came alive. A massive swarm of aggressive carp and channel catfish surrounded the bait, competing so violently that they were physically ramming each other out of the way to get to the center of that cloud. The industry wants you to pay $15 for synthetic doughs and gels that vanish in the water. I'm going to show you how mixing these 2 $3 baking items creates a 2-layer attraction system that predatory fish simply cannot ignore. Welcome to the only corner of the internet dedicated to exposing the forgotten history, the raw biology, and the strictly suppressed methods that the multi-billion-dollar tackle industry hopes you never discover. We are building a community of anglers who trust biological science and fluid dynamics over glossy marketing campaigns and expensive retail price tags. If you are tired of watching your hard-earned paycheck dissolve in the water, and you want to finally understand the actual physics of why fish strike, hit that subscribe button right now. We are taking the power back from the corporations, one cast at a time. Today, we are breaking down the absolute illusion of the commercial dough bait and scent market. Walk into any major sporting goods store, and you will see an entire aisle dedicated to jars of punch bait, dough baits, and carp pack baits. They cost anywhere from $12 to $20 a bag. To establish a baseline for this test, we bought a highly rated $15 bag of premium commercial attractant. The packaging promised a slow-release amino acid cloud and a proprietary blend of feeding stimulants. We packed it onto a rig and dropped it into a slow-moving river channel. Here is the dirty secret the manufacturers hide in their chemical engineering. To make those baits survive for 2 years on a hot warehouse shelf without rotting, they are absolutely saturated with chemical preservatives and artificial stabilizers. These stabilizers kill the biological activity of the bait. When you cast it into the water, the artificial coating gives off a rapid, massive burst of synthetic scent that smells incredible to a human nose. But within 5 to 10 minutes, a process called washout occurs. That artificial layer completely dissolves, and what you are left with is an inert, dead lump of filler sitting on the bottom. It emits no scent. It provides no attraction. You are essentially fishing with a rock, and the industry engineered it this way on purpose. They need your bait to wash out quickly so that you are forced to reach back into that expensive bag and use more product. Planned obsolescence is their entire business model. We threw the expensive bag aside and pulled out our 2 baking scraps. The total cost of our ingredients was under $3, and the biochemical reaction they create underwater operates on a level of fluid dynamics that factories cannot replicate. We are talking about unsweetened shredded coconut and full-fat powdered milk. When you mix these 2 items in a 50-50 ratio, you are not just making a bait. You are engineering what marine biologists call a compound trophic cascade, a 2-layer attraction system that attacks a fish's sensory receptors from a massive distance and then forces a feeding frenzy at close range. Let's break down the first layer, the long-distance caller. Shredded coconut is loaded with medium-chain fatty acids, specifically lauric acid. In the aquatic world, oils and fats are the ultimate communication network. Because these natural coconut oils are hydrophobic, they do not instantly dissolve and wash away into the current like a water-based synthetic spray. When your dough hits the bottom, the coconut acts as a sustained release engine. It continuously bleeds microscopic droplets of natural lipid oil. These droplets rise through the water column and spread horizontally across the surface and mid-water layers, creating an expansive, oily scent corridor. To a catfish, a carp, or a cruising predator, this oil slick mimics the exact chemical signature of an organic food bloom or the decaying fats of an injured bait fish. The fish's highly evolved olfactory system detects this lipid trail from over 50 feet away in zero visibility. The coconut oil grabs their attention from a distance and physically pulls them toward your location. But attracting a fish to your area is only half the battle. You have to make them commit, and that is where the second layer of the trap engages. Full-fat powdered milk is an absolute powerhouse of bioactive compounds. It is packed with casein proteins and lactose sugars. As the dough sits on the bottom, the powdered milk begins to slowly dissolve, leaching out that thick, milky white smoke we captured on the underwater camera. This cloud is saturated with suspended protein particles. When a fish tracks the coconut oil back to the source and swims into this milky cloud, its chemoreceptors are violently overwhelmed. Fish detect protein in the water the exact same way a shark detects blood. The casein proteins signal a massive, high-calorie food source, while the lactose provides a mild, natural sweetness that bottom feeders are biologically hardwired to consume. The combination of the long-distance oil slick and the concentrated protein cloud creates sensory overload. The fish do not just casually inspect the bait. They enter a state of competitive aggression, attacking the dough because their brains are telling them that a massive, unmissable feeding event is happening right now. This biochemical masterpiece is not a new discovery. Long before Western tackle companies started selling heavily processed boilies and packaged pack baits, commercial fishermen in Southeast Asia were quietly dominating their local waters using this exact science. For over a century, in the rivers and coastal estuaries of the Philippines, Thailand, and Indonesia, local anglers have been mixing grated coconut into fermented rice and dough. They understood through generational observation that the combination of natural oils and starches created an inescapable trap for local fish populations. In the 1970s, underground carp anglers in Europe discovered the power of adding milk proteins to their baits, realizing that casein was the ultimate feeding trigger. The modern tackle industry eventually took these two ancient, highly effective ingredients, synthesized them in laboratories, packed them with artificial preservatives to sit on shelves, and marked the price up by 1,000%. They stole the science of the working-class fisherman and sold it back to you as a luxury item. Here is exactly how you bypass their entire supply chain and build this two-layer biological weapon in your own kitchen. Go to the baking aisle of any grocery store. You need unsweetened shredded coconut. Do not buy the sweetened, highly processed flakes used for cake decorating. You want the raw, fine shreds, so they release their oils naturally. Next, buy a box of full-fat powdered milk. Do not use skim or fat-free. The heavy milk fat is absolutely critical for the slow-dissolving cloud effect. In a large container, mix the shredded coconut and the powdered milk in an exact 50-50 ratio. Shake it up until it is completely blended. This dry mixture is incredibly shelf-stable. You can store it in your tackle box for months without it going bad. When you arrive at your fishing spot, take a handful of whatever base bait you prefer. You can use standard cornmeal, plain bread dough, or even crushed sweet corn. Pour a generous amount of your dry powder mixture over your base bait. Now, this next step is critical. Only use water directly from the lake or river you are fishing to hydrate the mixture. Tap water contains chlorine and fluoride, which fish can detect and will act as a chemical repellent. Add the lake water slowly, just a few drops at a time, and aggressively knead the mixture with your bare hands. You are looking for a sticky, dense paste that holds its shape when compressed, but feels slightly grainy from the coconut. Mold this paste directly around your hook, or pack it tightly around a specialized feeder rig. The true power of this system is that you are the chemist, and you can adapt it to any environment. If you are fishing in cold water, anything below 60 degrees, the fish's metabolism slows down, and oils do not disperse as easily. Adjust your ratio to 60% powdered milk and 40% coconut. The extra milk ensures a heavier protein cloud that compensates for the sluggish oil dispersion. If you are targeting massive channel catfish in muddy, high-current rivers, add half a teaspoon of pure garlic powder to the dry mix. The sulfur compounds in the garlic bond with the milk fats, creating a pungent, savory layer that cuts through the thickest mud and calls in whisker fish from hundreds of yards downstream. And if you are fishing in highly pressured, crystal-clear water, where fish are notoriously easily spooked, add a few drops of pure vanilla extract to the lake water before you mix the dough. The vanilla adds an organic sweet ester profile that masks any residual human scent on your hands and calms the fish's natural caution. As you start experimenting with these raw, pantry-based attractants, you will quickly realize how much control you actually have over your fishing success. Have you ever mixed household ingredients into your bait? Or did your grandfather ever teach you a weird kitchen recipe that outperformed the guys with the expensive gear? Drop a comment below and tell me your exact recipe and what you caught with it. I read every single story, and the knowledge we share in the comments is rapidly becoming the greatest threat to the overpriced tackle industry. Your story might just be the foundation for our next major field test. The modern fishing industry has spent decades constructing a massive illusion. They want you to believe that catching fish requires sterile laboratories, sponsored professionals, and a constant stream of disposable income. But the raw biology of a fish has not changed in millions of years. They hunt by detecting amino acids, tracking lipid oils, and following the natural chemical gradients of the water. By combining the hydrophobic, long-distance traveling oils of shredded coconut with the dense, close-range protein explosion of full-fat powdered milk, you are delivering exactly what a predatory fish is biologically programmed to consume. You are not tricking them with an artificial piece of plastic. You are feeding their deepest survival instincts. Stop funding the quarterly earnings reports of massive tackle corporations. Mix your own powder, understand the fluid dynamics of your local water, and watch as that milky white cloud turns a dead afternoon into an absolute feeding frenzy. Keep your hooks sharp, trust the raw chemistry of nature, and I will see you on the water.